It's my one and only time. Good afternoon, everyone. Pino Buffone, Director of Education for the Renfrew County District School Board. Would like to call our inaugural meeting of the board to order. Would like to start, I'm already off script, but I would like to start by welcoming our three new members of the trustee team. Kim Doherty, Dave Dobson, of course, Jody Primo. Thanks for being with us. Great to have you as part of our board of trustees. I know that's not official yet, but will be official shortly. So welcome to all of you, and of course, welcome to senior staff and to the board of trustees returning. Wanted to start the meeting with our territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which our school and district buildings are situated is the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin people. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples on the land on which we gather here today. I would also like to share to start our meeting the invocation. Ask everyone to stand. May we who are assembled here have a true understanding of the duties that are placed in our hands. We seek to have the wisdom to honor our obligations to the good of the residents of Renfrew County, to the parents, teachers, electors, and especially the students. May those who educate be ever inspired by the goodness, and may the wisdom and knowledge which they impart to our students ever serve as a beacon to lighten their way. As trustees and administrators, we will work together with integrity, perseverance, and respect to the fulfillment of the trust bestowed upon us. Even though we have regrets this afternoon from Trustee Gannett, who was unable to make it, and I know we'll reach out to him a little later on during the course of the agenda, and wanted to just let you all know that he's unfortunately unavailable to be here in presence and unavailable to be online due to connectivity issues, but we will reach out to him by cell for a connection a little later in the meeting. Wanted to continue with the announcement of the declaration of office for each trustee and the municipalities they represent. So for the town of Arnprior and the township of McNabb Braeside, Kim Doherty, again, welcome, was elected as trustee. For the town of Renfrew, Greater Madawaska and Borden, Susan Humphreys are re-elected and acclaimed in her position. For Boncha Valley, Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, Madawaska Valley, Brunel, Linda and Raglan, South Algonquin, David Kaiser, re-elected and claims position. For the Whitewater region, and Admas and Bromley, David Dobson, elected and acclaimed. Again, welcome to the board. For the city of Pembroke, Leo Boland, re-elected and acclaimed in his position. For Laurentian Valley and North Algonquin Wilberforce, Mike Gannett, re-elected and claimed in his position. Town of Petawawa and Garrison Petawawa, Brian Morris, re-elected and claimed in his position. And for the town of Deep River, town of Laurentian Hills, Headclear and Maria, Jody Primo, elected and acclaimed. And again, welcome Jody to the Board of Trustees. Wanted to now ask the members of the Board of Trustees, all members new and returning, to complete the declaration of office and oath of allegiance for each trustee. So I'll ask all trustees to stand together and read the declaration of office and oath of allegiance, and then I'll come through and sign for each member of the Board of Trustees the form that's in front of you for your declaration of office and oath of allegiance, and ask you if you could to please sign that. And I know for you, Jody, when you have an opportunity to sign it, I'll sign when you bring it in, and we'll make sure we have that on file to formalize your official trustee declaration. So ask the Board of Trustees to share that in unison, I think, to the best of your ability. Thank you.
So I, Susan Humphreys, do solemnly declare that I am not disqualified under any act to be a member of the
Renfrew County District School Board, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability,
the office
of trustee
I have not
and that I have
received
not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality or malversation or other undue execution of the said office, and that I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, as required by and in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
And I will come and sign, and I do know the oath of allegiance, I believe, also means.
Okay, we need to do that after.
Again, Jody and Brian, and of course for Mike, we'll ensure that we sign those forms as soon as you bring them in for us. And I'll ask again the Board of Trustees to complete the oath of allegiance.
I guess we should stand again, perhaps, since we're talking about, and I guess we should be allegiance to the king as opposed to the queens. Okay, statute. So together, I, Susan Humphreys,
Swear that I will
Tony
be
Pring,
faithful
do
to bear
swear
true
that I will be
allegiance
faithful
to His
and bear true
Majesty, King Charles.
King Charles III.
Thank you to members of the Board of Trustees, and again, welcome to our board. I'd like to ask a motion required to confirm the agenda of today's meeting. I require a mover and a seconder to confirm that. Mover, Trustee Boland, and a seconder, Trustee Kaiser. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Declarations of interest. I'd like to ask if there are any declarations of interest for today's meeting based on the board agenda. Seeing none in person or online, thank you. And a motion is required to confirm the minutes of the meeting for the board meeting of October 18th, 2022. Require a mover and a seconder. Mover, Trustee Humphreys, and a seconder, Trustee Morris. Thank you so much. And now it comes to moving along in our agenda, the election of the chairperson. As Director of Education, I have the honor of presiding over the election of the chairperson, and will ask for nominations from the floor for the position of chairperson. Are there any nominations from the floor?
Yes, Director
Morris?
Buffone. I'm very pleased to nominate Trustee Susan Humphreys for the position of Chair of the Board of Trustees for the RCDSB. Susan is a proven leader. She's been Vice Chair, and all who know her would say that she did an extraordinary job in both positions. During the last 2 years, she has been past chair, but quite simply, she was a past chair like no other. She worked closely with Vice Chair Kaiser and myself, providing advice and completing tasks of importance when asked. She was our respected partner in the leadership role. Susan brings much to the role of chair. Her accomplishments were many as a senior executive in the Ontario Department of Agriculture. Her leadership experience showed when she became chair last time. She has played a highly significant role at the provincial level in OPSPA, our provincial association. Susan is intelligent, hardworking, and thorough in everything she does. Respectful of others, clear thinking. She is everything that a chair should be. Public education in Ontario is in the midst of uncertain times. We need the strong leadership of Susan Humphreys.
Thank you, Trustee Morris. And as per standard process, before I look to move and second the nominations, I will do 3 calls for nominations from the floor, that being the first. Again, a call for nominations from the floor for the position of chairperson. There's a third call for nominations from the floor for the position of chairperson. Seeing none other, I require a mover and a seconder for nominations for the position of chairperson of the board to be closed.
I so move.
Do I have a mover? Trustee Morris, thank you. And seconder, Trustee Kaiser, thank you. The nominee, I must ask whether you would like to serve as chairperson and accept the nomination.
I would be honored. I do think I need a seconder though for my nomination as well. I'm not sure we got a seconder, so that might
Yes.
be the other piece we need to add.
Thank you. So we've got Trustee Morris, who has made the nomination, a seconder for the nomination. My apologies.
I'll be happy to second that nomination.
Thank you, Trustee Boland. So,
So yes.
yeah, okay, great. Thank you, Trustee Humphreys. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And I will hand this over rightfully now to you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As you can see on our agenda, and thank you for the kind words, Trustee Morris, and I appreciate that very much. And I do have a bit of an address to add in a few minutes, but before we carry on with that, I'm just following our agenda where I would like now to ask for nominations for our vice chair, which obviously is a very key position as well in this. And again, much as Director Buffone had done, I will call for nominations and seconders 3 times and then check with those who are nominated to see if they are willing to stand. So I will accept nominations for vice chair of the Renfrew County District School Board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd
Yes,
like to
Trustee
make a
Morris.
nomination. Thank you. It's my honor to put forward a nomination for Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees in the name of Trustee Leo Boland. I have known Trustee Boland since we both came on the board 8 years ago. I quickly realized that he's intelligent, hardworking, and most of all, dedicated to the students of our schools. He has served on many committees with distinction, in particular Finance and Resources as Chair, RCJTC, Audit. In particular, I note the way that he would ask very intelligent questions as he dug deep for the answers that he wanted. I know Leo will be an excellent vice chair who will work very well with our chair that we just elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Morris. Do I have a seconder for Trustee Boland? Yes, Trustee Kaiser. Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I require a motion to close the nominations. Trustee Kaiser and Trustee Morris, thank you. And all in favor of closing the nominations? And Trustee Boland, are you willing to step in as vice chair?
Yes.
Great, excellent. So you get to work with me.
Yay.
Thank you. I look forward to that. Congratulations on being vice chair. And I'm sure we will be looking to our fellow trustees for assistance as we go along this journey. As is usual, I do have an opportunity to say a few words as the chair of the board. So I will do that now, and hopefully you'll be a little bit patient. I've got a couple of pages here, but hopefully not too long. I do want to thank the Board of Trustees for electing me as your new chair, and a special thank you to Trustee Morris and to Trustee Boland for seconding my nomination, for providing a nomination and seconding it, and to the entire board for your support and faith. And I did have the opportunity to send some information out ahead of time to our new trustees as well, so at least you kind of had a bit of an idea of what you were getting into, and I just appreciate your support. I must admit the past 2 years have been like no other, and I must acknowledge the excellent leadership that was provided by our team of trustees Morris and Kaiser, as well as our director, Buffone. The next term will be interesting, with many key areas that I know we'll be focusing on, Be assured there'll be lots of conversations, lots of discussion, information sharings, and decisions to be made, so it will be exciting times. Here are a few things that are the top of mind for me. Finalizing our consultations with our secondary school staff to determine a review of our secondary programming. And this has been on our agenda for a bit of time, so we're really looking forward to that. We want to ensure that we're providing the best opportunities for our students to be successful in whatever pathways they choose. And as a board of trustees, we must always put students first. Secondly, developing new partnerships with community stakeholders. This is a key pillar of our strategic plan, and we will be reaching out more than ever to our local municipalities, businesses, social services, and community stakeholders. Thirdly, allowing our schools to renew their websites. This has always been a bit of a issue for me, not an issue, a priority for me. Because I do think that social media piece is so important, and I know that that our communications department has been doing a super job. And I do look forward to this next step getting well underway so that our schools will get their own websites well up to date and increase even more so our social media presence. Fourthly, delivering consistent programming across the district. And as you know, we have been able to provide that bilingual program across our district so that no matter where you live in this large geographic area, our students have a chance to participate in those particular programming. And of course, to continue to follow our current strategic plan, which we really undertook in the last year or so. So it will hopefully do us well for the next little bit of time. I've also been fortunate to be a representative of the Ontario Public School Board Association, and being part of the provincial group allows us to discuss our good news stories as well as our issues with other boards across the province. And we always learn, or I do anyway, I always learn great things from other trustees. OPSPA has become a strong advisory group to the Ministry of Education, which can only be a benefit as we try to find common ground to work closely with Minister Lecce. A few comments about our Board of Trustees. We've had a very dedicated and hardworking team, a team that is truly focused on what's best for student achievement and well-being in our district. And of course, our student trustees, the fact that we have 2 trustees over a staggered 2-year term speaks volumes about the importance of student voice. Taylor and Ava, who I believe are both on virtual with us today, have offered and will continue to offer so much to our board. We're very proud of the work they are doing both within the district, but also as an influence provincially. I'm looking forward to beginning our new 4-year term with a strong board of dedicated trustees, and a special welcome to trustees Primo, Dobson, and Doherty, who will round out our board, I'm sure, very nicely. Whenever I have the opportunity, I tell parents and public how fortunate we are to have a strong, dedicated staff, and especially our senior management team. Our director, Buffone, has been an excellent addition to our district, and over the past 5 years has made significant impact with his strong leadership skills, his strategic forward-thinking abilities, and commitment to strengthen the communications with all stakeholders, especially with staff and students. His senior team of superintendents Barnes, Poirier, Cousineau, Smith, and Riddell are providing excellent leadership in their areas of expertise and through their families of schools. And to round out the team, I have to thank Shelley McIntyre, who ensures that business runs smoothly and efficiently and always with care and courtesy. Thank you all for what you do every single day. In closing, I ask that you think about our motto, inspire, empower, achieve. I think we see that everywhere we go around the district, and it's done well for us. I firmly believe that this applies not only to the students and staff in our district, but also to our Board of Trustees. I believe we're inspired by our students and staff. I believe we are empowered by our constituents who elect us to represent them. And I believe we will achieve great things by working together toward a common goal. So well expressed in our mission statement, working together to foster outstanding educational experiences. Thank you again for all your support, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you for the next 4 years. So thank you very much. Okay, and with that, I think we're back to our agenda, and you'll see that we've kind of inserted a little bit of new trustee orientation into this, just to add a little bit of a new dimension maybe to the board meeting. And this will perhaps be step one in a couple of other meetings that we'll have later on to cover some of the other things. But we wanted to get our to let you get your feet wet a little bit on a bunch of things. And I'm sure that many of you did read some of the material ahead of time. I'm sure you read material ahead of time before you even put your name in for nomination to become a school board trustee. I don't imagine you would come into this without knowing a little bit more about it. So hopefully this will be of help to you. So we are going to spend a bit of time on the new trustee orientation program, and then we're going to come back and continue with our election of officers of the rest of our committees. So hopefully that will work for everybody. So I don't know if you have you'll have your binder, I know, in front of you, so you might just want to dig that out for a minute. And I know for the trustees who've been around the table for a bit, this will likely be a good overview, and for the staff, this may be an overview for you as well. And you might need to do a few other things at the same time, and that's okay too. Well, we won't mind, but I do appreciate you being here today. So when we look at we'll just kind of start at the beginning, and I'm just going to do the first couple of sections, and then I've assigned other people to do some of this so that you won't necessarily just have to hear from me. So that will be good. But to start off with, I just thought it would be helpful maybe to just start at the beginning. You've got your list of board of trustees right at the very beginning. You've got names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses. We would ask that you would keep this, relatively confidential. I mean, we don't necessarily want addresses out there, although they probably are anyway. But these are ones that we know that we will need over your next period of time. The other piece is around which electoral area each trustee represents, and also which schools you're aligned with. And again, this may be something that you were aware of beforehand, that you really are assigned mostly to a family of schools. There are a couple of areas that are a little bit messy because students in certain geographic areas could go to a variety of schools, so it's not quite as clear cut. So for Trustee Doherty and myself, for example, ours are pretty straightforward. You have the Arn Prior family of schools. I have the Renfrew family of schools. But the others are just a little bit messier. I know for a Trustee Primo too, she's pretty clear in which school she's looking after, so that's pretty straightforward. So you just may want to be aware, and I think the thing to keep in mind when there are several trustees that are assigned to a school, you just want to kind of make sure you touch base with each other and don't all show up maybe at one time, or just to have that bit of a conversation around how that works. So if you have any questions, we can certainly chat about that. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go on to policy 2. And if at any time you have any questions, please just stop and, just ask. It's, I know there's a lot of stuff kind of coming at you at one time, and I apologize for that. But one of the things that we thought it would be important to spend a bit of time with is on the role of the trustee. And again, I'm sure some of you read some material before you put your name in, and I'm sure you read it today, or before today, rather. One of the things that I always find is helpful is to have 4 or 5 kind of key things in your back pocket, because invariably somebody's going to say, so what the heck does a trustee actually do? And I'm not sure that it's particularly well understood, even as we evolve and continue on each time. But I know that when I get asked that question, or when I have the opportunity to talk about it, I tend to kind of 3 or 4 things in my back pocket, or depending on who the audience is too, that may make a difference. If for example, they're interested in the financial side, then you can talk about, yes, we are accountable for the budget. We have a $140 million budget. We do have to approve that. We want to make sure that it's being used appropriately, and that it all comes from the province, basically. That's another piece that some people may not understand. Others may want to know, well, how come, are you involved in directing how something is done at a school? Well, in fact, we aren't, because we are the governance side, not the operations side. So we can provide some broad direction, strategic direction, but we aren't meddling really in the day-to-day operations. And I try to describe that as ears in and fingers out, right? So we need to know enough about what's going on in order to make appropriate decisions and make good decisions, but we don't meddle, and we actually, we only have one employee is the other piece you may need to be really well aware of. And Director Buffone is our one employee, so we can provide direction for him, but he actually implements it. So it's quite an efficient way to actually do it, I think, anyway. So it's sometimes a little bit of a fine line as to what our role is, but it's truly the governance side, not operations. It's a little bit gray sometimes, and it kind of waffles a bit. And that's why we sometimes have to have good conversations about what is their role and where do we go from there. So it's always good to have that in the back of your mind. The only other one that I always talk about, which I haven't yet, is the advocacy for students. We always put students first. So we advocate for students across the district. We also advocate for the constituents that elected us. So again, sometimes it's not quite as black and white because sometimes they may be at odds with each other. But ultimately, we advocate and we work as a board. So as individuals, we have limited power, but as a board, we have significant power. So those are kind of the key pieces there. If you look at the actual policy itself, I think that just the headings maybe will reinforce, just keeping in mind, and I'm sure, again, you know this, that all this is outlined under the Education Act. So this is, it does not vary from board to board across the province. We're all under the Education Act, and that we are a corporate entity rather than treated as individual trustees. So that's another piece that we need to keep in mind as well. So you'll see the list. I think there are maybe 12 things that are kind of highlighted there that we've already touched on a bit. Accountability for student achievement. So putting students first is absolute ultimate goal. But we are also accountable to provincial government. They provide the funding for us, so we have to do that. And then accountability to the community that elected you. We're involved in policy development, implementation, and evaluation. So we set the larger policies that help, in his direction of the district. But we also do the follow-up on the evaluation and the accountability. I mentioned that the director is our only employee. So a number of years ago, when Pino joined us, the Board of Trustees hired him. So that's one of the roles that we would have if he was to leave, which we're not allowing him to. But if he was to leave, then we would have to go through that process. We do want to think about how our trustees are developed. There certainly is. We do want to assess our board periodically. I think in our policies it says annually, so we need to do that. And we also encourage professional development for all of our board of trustees. Strategic planning I touched on. We just have developed our new multi-year strategic plan last year, I believe. So I think we're good for 4 years. Fiscal responsibility, absolutely key. As I mentioned, we have about $140 million budget that we work with every year. Superintendent Barnes is our leader and guru on all things financial. So, and she and her team are very good at bringing it to us in a form that those of us can understand who are not accountants. And I certainly am not, so I appreciate that ability. Advocacy and communication, again, I talked about advocacy already, but we do need to be aware that where we can, we need to be able to communicate to our constituents, to our communities. You know your communities, and we really need that knowledge around this table to help us as we move forward. Recognition of students, staff, and community members is another piece that plays into our role. Senior staff selection, again, these are kind of minor things, but we do have a trustee that sits on hiring for superintendents as well. And we provide input with regards to local administration. So we would have conversations with our director and possibly superintendents about administration in our local schools or the junior families of schools. We don't hire and fire them, but we do have input in how that might evolve. And then a few additional responsibilities, if that's not quite enough for you, is around school calendars, out of country excursions, tender selection. I'm not sure we do that much. Of course, we don't really build very much, so I think we're good. Debentures, naming of schools, which again, we haven't had the opportunity to do for a long time, and disposition of land and buildings. So just a few other pieces that is the role that we play. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Hopefully maybe that's helped, or maybe it's muddied the waters. I'm not sure, but it's quite an all-encompassing role. I think the ultimate piece, though, is putting our students first. The other piece that might be of interest to you, if you haven't taken a look at it, the Ontario Public School Board Association website, they do have a section on municipal and school board elections, and they've got a really good section on school board trustees. Who are they and why are they important? So if you haven't read that, you might just want to look that up. So it's under the OPSPA website, but under the elections piece, and it's called School Board Trustees, Who Are They and Why Are They Important? So that might just fill out any other questions that you have. So that's what I'm going to say on the role of trustees. Does anybody have any questions or concerns, or you aren't running out the door? I trust at this point. That's, at least I hope you're not. Because we do work together as a team on this. It's not as if you're here on your own. So, okay, let's carry on then, if that's okay. And I've asked Trustee Morris, if he would cover the next two policies, the Code of Ethics and also the role of the trustee, which is just a little bit different viewpoint than the job description itself. So, Trustee Morris, could I turn it over to you, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Susan. The Trustee Code of Ethics. It's really important that we operate within a set of rules where we are respectful with each other, and so that we can cooperate to do the kinds of things that we're supposed to do under legislation. It's extremely important that we work in harmony, and we do. This is an extremely collegial board. Yes, we lost 3, and now we've gained 3. I think probably really good trustees. Very pleased that way, and I'm sure we'll work very closely together. Some boards do not, and they're downright dysfunctional, and that doesn't. Any little petty squabbles amongst a board reflects on what we do for kids. So we have to engage in a spirit of harmony and cooperation. That's the first one. In spite of differences of opinion, and we're going to have differences of opinion, and that's healthy. We also have to recognize that authority is only, and Susan touched on this, really rests in one spot. It does not rest in individual trustees. Rather, it rests in the corporate board, the full board. Individual trustees have no individual authority whatsoever unless they are given it directly by the board for a specific reason. We need to, in number 3 here, I'm not going to read them all, word for word, but maintain the integrity of the board and the position of the trustee when communicating and interacting with outside individuals and agencies. We are promoting the good that we do as a collective board, and we certainly don't want to be saying things that basically undercut other trustees or undercut what the board has decided to do. And that leads to the next one, where we respect the majority decisions of the board. We can have all the differences of opinion that we like, but once the board has made a decision, it is incumbent upon us to support that decision. Now, we can work with them within our group to maybe try to have things changed, but once that decision is made, then we support that decision. and we need to be loyal to the interests of the Renfrew County District School Board. Now that is a pretty wide one, but we don't want to be doing anything that undercuts what we're trying to do collectively. We always have to be careful too of what we say, so that we are actually saying what it is we actually mean to say. We don't want to say things that others may construe as being the position of the board when they're not. I guess it's been covered a bit here, but we need to respect each other and always discuss things with civility. You get far more done with honey than you do with vinegar, the old expression goes, and it's just absolutely true here. We do not have unwarranted criticism of our fellow members of the board or employees, whether in or outside of the boardroom. Confidentially of discussions, that's extremely important. What happens in the boardroom, there's public session, okay, like we are in right now. Sometimes we'll have closed session. Sometimes we'll go into in-camera session. And those discussions are confidential. We represent not the people who elected us. We are not delegates. We are trustees. We're representing all the people of the district, not just our own area, our own ward. We may bring concerns from our particular area, but in the end, we're making a decision that is best for all the students and families of Renfrew County. We also must be very careful not to get into any conflict of interest. In particular, well, it's a financial conflict of interest between whatever we do in our personal life, our business life, and our position on the board. And if there's any doubt, just ask someone else on the board, ask the chair, or ask the director. So if we operate collectively, ethically, we're going to be in good shape. We've been managing to do that, and I'm sure we will continue to do that as well in the future. And Chair Humphrey, shall I move on to policy 6 then?
Yes, please.
Okay, the role of the trustee. The Renfrew County District School Board has a mandate to achieve its mission and its goals, and I certainly encourage you to read those in our strategic plan. And also, we are here to promote the best possible education for the students in charge of the board. And we all individually and collectively contribute to that particular carrying out of that mandate. Again, under the Education Act, the individual trustee has no power whatsoever. Our power lies in the collective, in the Renfrew County District School Board of Trustees, and in the areas in which we have jurisdiction. I already mentioned that the decisions of the board in a properly constituted meeting are those of the corporation. We're all different. We bring a wide range of skills, experience, knowledge, values, beliefs, opinions to our role. And our diverse group allows us to represent the interests of a very diverse district. I know my fellow trustees that know me, I've heard this line before, but I always remember what Joe Clark said back in 1979. That really, Kennedy said was a community of communities. Well, Renfrew County is a community of communities, and we are very distinct one area from the other, and we try to best meet the needs of all these differing areas. Trustees, we're we're responsible for staying informed about developments in education. I have to say that our director is very good at basically promoting the new pedagogy that comes to us. He's very good. Every once in a while, he'll give us a book to read, and thank heavens there's no test. But we are responsible for following the developments in pedagogy, in our roles as trustees. It's very challenging to be a trustee. It really is. An awful lot of people don't understand what it is that we do. We serve large constituencies, and representing wide ranges of people, it can be very difficult, especially when one group will sometimes say, well, you're my trustee, so I expect you to do this. Well, that's not our role. Our role is to listen to the different opinions and then collectively make a decision based on the best needs of the district as a whole. So, corporate role of individual trustees: comply with all policies and procedures of the board. Become familiar with our board policies, meeting agendas, and reports so that we can participate fully when we do meet. We try very hard to stay out of day-to-day management of schools, of the board. That's the operational area for the senior administration and the other levels of administration. We have no role there. We can, maybe bring some information to the director, but we have no role in administration directly. If there are any queries or issues raised by a parent or community member, refer them to the principal. That's the first step. Have to talk to the principal. And if that's already been done and it's still not dealt with, then you move it up to the line, inform the director, and he will be carried on from there. One thing we do as representatives of a particular committee or of a community is that we represent our community's history, traditions, and experiences when that information is important to understand the needs of our particular community. And that's something that's really important because our communities, as I mentioned earlier, they're not the same. They are significantly different. We are supposed to participate in and contribute to the decisions of the board, and we do so generally very fulsomely. Most of us are not very shy about speaking and making our opinions known, and I hope that continues. We are trying to promote as individuals and as a group a positive learning and working culture within the board. It's incumbent upon us as trustees to bring to the attention of the board any issues that might affect this district and interpret the needs of the community to the board. We must support decisions of the board. Again, that's within the ethics piece. And we also must ensure that decisions or policies are implemented and monitored. We exercise authority within defined limits, and the Education Act defines those for us. And we also have opportunity to participate in board and trustee development in order to enhance our roles as trustees. And it's really important that we respect the confidentiality of information which is obtained as a board member. This is, I think that just goes without saying that, what we hear and see at the board table is not, for it to be publicly disseminated just carelessly. And that then is policy 6, the role of the trustee. And Chair Humphreys, would you like me to go over the staff and trustee interaction protocol? or like a
Why
little bit
don't we
later?
why don't we do that a bit later, Brian? We'll give you a bit
Sure
of a
thing.
break. And
Okay, sounds
thank
good
you
to
very
me.
much, Trustee Morris. I've asked Trustee Kaiser if he would do a a quick overview of the committees of the board. It's policy 10 is a long policy, so I'm not sure how you want to handle it, Trustee Kaiser, but I'm sure it will be appropriately done.
I hope so. I just have three kind of areas that I thought I would go over. The first thing I just wanted to say is, having new trustees on the board, it's always good, refreshing, because we learn from people who come from the outside in terms of a kind of a reflection of what we're doing. So I look forward to that. Anyway, in the trustee orientation program, in terms of policy 10, the chart, I think, says a lot in terms of what the statutory and standing committees are of the board. I just encourage you to take a quick look through the chart and get to know the various committees. There's definitions that are throughout policy 10. I won't get into all of those. I think it's important to know the difference between statutory committees and standing committees. I think that you'll get to understand and know that as we go along. I thought at this point I would just sort of mention typically that, with been through a few new boards, typically it's a challenge with new trustees because they don't really have experience, they don't really know what the committees are. It kind of sometimes seems like it's set up before you get here, and that's just typical and normal. That's what happens with these kinds of established committees. And the three most important committees, in my opinion, are the Finance and Resource Committee, the Program and Student Achievement Committee, and the Equity and Inclusiveness Committee. And we're all members of those committees. So the chair, works on the agenda and brings forward ideas and things that trustees want on the agenda for those particular committees. And I think Trustee Moore mentioned it earlier, maybe Trustee Humphreys as well, that, what we're really here for is, and the most important committee is the Program and Student Achievement Committee. I mean, in all the years I've been a trustee, one of the things I'm most proud of, and our outgoing Trustee Shields would echo this, is that, we always make decisions based on what's best for students in the classroom, whether it's monetary, whether it's policy driven. It seems to be what drives this board. And I think, it's what keeps this board, has kept this board cohesive, is having that one central framework. And that committee, the Program and Student Achievement Committee, is really the most important committee that we all sit on as trustees, and that we all represent for our students and our constituents. The other thing, again, I'm trying to be sort of general, Susan, is that, the board is full of acronyms. So you'll see all kinds of acronyms in here. And I don't know if we're coming out with an acronym dictionary. I think we talked about it a little bit, but it is kind of a challenge to get to know the acronyms. And so I think the point I would make is please feel as comfortable as possible for just stopping people, whether it's a trustee or a superintendent, to define what the acronym means, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know what all of them mean, and I've been around a while. And so sometimes I have to kind of go back and ask someone what that acronym really means. So just get used to those, because they're used in all the committees and all the reports and all of the discussions. The acronyms play a key role. So I had mentioned earlier about, the three major committees. I think that several of some of them are statutory, some of them are standing, that are really good committees to gain experiences on if you're a new trustee. And, the PIC is a great way to get to know what goes on in the board and how parents interact with the board. And SEAC is another one. That's one that's legislated. And it's my very first year as a trustee, I sat on SEAC and I learned more about special education than I think I knew in my entire life. So and also get you to know how the board works. The Student Senate is another very interesting one to see what the value of our students bring to the board. I'm always pushing the senators to bring more to the board. I won't be doing that this year. They're probably relieved. Policy review is another great committee. We have, I think, quite a different philosophy in policy review over the last several years. Very relaxed. I want to say we don't follow any formality at all. I've chaired that committee for a number of years, and we just go through and talk about it. And like was mentioned before, the sort of the way we get along, and, you know, someone doesn't like a period in that spot, or how does it change how the sentence works, or does it change the meaning? And it's a great committee to be on. Again, like the Indigenous Advisory Committee, a great input, great experience gaining committee. So hopefully when we get to that stage of the discussions, Chair Humphreys, that some trustees will be interested in sitting on those committees to gain sort of knowledge and understanding, and I guess experience as to how the board operates. We're only going through it briefly today. I do think it takes probably a year to get used to how everything works on the board. Some people are faster than others and how often they read and what they look at, but those are some great committees to be on. And so the only other thing I thought I would touch on is the SAL committee. Because it's something the trustees you're going to come across. You may or may not have heard of, you know, the supervised alternative learning programs that we have for students that may or may not be comfortable in the classroom. And so we are required by legislation to find an alternative learning opportunity for these students. And so you'll come across this probably very quickly for some of you, that you will be sitting on these committees that discuss the future of students and what we can do to make sure they get the best education possible under their circumstances. So I think that was all I wanted to cover. I thought, you know, the rest is pretty straightforward, and, you know, it talks about the powers and duties and what chairs do. And at the end of the day, you know, for the three major committees, just reach out to the chair of that committee to find out, you know, if you have, or ask any questions or find out if there's anything you want on the agenda for the next committee's meeting for any of those three areas. So I think I'll leave it at that. I think that covers what I thought was important.
Thank you very much, Trustee Kaiser. I think that's a good overview without getting into the nitty gritty of it, because there is a lot of nitty gritty. So I appreciate you picking out those key pieces for us. Trustee Boland, I guess Vice Chair Boland, actually, would you like to carry on with policy 22 and the trustee honorarium? Because I know that'll be important for all of us.
Yes, thank you. So trustee 22 is the trustee code of conduct. Other trustees have already mentioned a lot of what's in here. So it's similar to the code of ethics and the role of the trustee. And the purpose of this policy is just to set out expectations for ethical and professional conduct from all the trustees. You know, the idea is just be respectful of others and respectful of, you know, people's decisions. Overall, have a good discussion about whatever topic that's there. Once the board decides, you know, then they set up for it, but that's, you know, now the new direction that the board is going to go in, and you're to support that. Probably not wholeheartedly if you're totally against it, but because it is now a board decision, then, you know, the expectation is that you would then support the board in that. The only difference with this policy as compared to the other ones that were mentioned is that if you breach this, there is consequences. And then for the most part is that if you feel that there is a breach of the code of conduct in any way, then the new chair is going to be dealing with that. So make a report to the chair. She likes it long and detailed, pages and pages and pages.
Yeah, right.
So you just reach out to her about what you believe the issue is, and then between the both of you, you'll discuss it, and then between her and the other people that she will contact for more information, we'll decide whether or not to bring it further along. So that's it in a nutshell, right? So for the most part, behave, not have to deal with this. And the reason why we're all here, the trustee honorariums, right? So this will make you very, very, very rich. So it's based on a base amount, which is roughly $5,900. And then the next part would be based on just enrollment of the students. So if we had a bigger enrollment, then you would get a little bit more. But for us, for this current year, the honorarium is roughly $7,800, and that translates into a monthly honorarium of roughly $650 a month. And then usually that's towards the beginning of the month that you will get that. And I'm sure within the next little while, you'll be filling out lots of paperwork to have that then transferred into your account. Any questions? And just so you know that this is fully taxable. Good, that's it.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Vice-Chairperson. The other thing I'll just mention again for the new trustees that, and we won't talk about this one today, but you know, your travel expenses are covered as well. So, you know, your drive from Arn Prior, you'll get mileage and those kinds of things. So there's some other things that do help at least offset expenses. But yes, you won't get rich on what your honorarium is, but I guess that reminds us that we're here for the right reason, and it's not about the money, but it's about the students. So, but it's good to know that, that's for sure. Okay. If there aren't any questions or issues or comments on that section, I'm going to ask our director to speak to the information in section 2 about the staff of district and the executive council roles, and maybe touch on the job description as well, if you're okay with that.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. Again, good afternoon, everyone. For the members of the Board of Trustees, new and experienced, just wanted to take you through a couple of elements of section 2 that we felt were important. First one is the staff contact list, including myself and the members of the senior team. I'll come to one position in particular to be confirmed around the executive officer, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But in essence, you've got the contact information, including cell phones for our senior staff. If there's ever an item or an issue of concern for you, in principle, but the number one person for you to go through is the executive officer of public relations, who's part of the director's office, and of course myself. But you will find out very quickly that I often defer, especially in areas where our staff have expertise, right through to the superintendent on a particular item or matter. If it's finance related, of course, to Jen, if it's human resource related to Jacqueline, and so on through the senior team. So when you've got all of our contact information, don't hesitate to reach out. But again, your primary contact will be the executive officer, but our information is there for you, including our email, our Twitter accounts, if you'd like to follow that kind of thing. I know Twitter's very much in flux right now as a platform, but we're there for you. On the second page is really the roles and responsibilities of executive council. And what that does is really break down the key portfolios or department areas for the entirety of senior staff, including myself as director. You've got really the crux of the initiatives and the projects, the again, departments, portfolios of the organization on that one page. And that's a very helpful page, because if you're ever wondering with respect to a particular activity or initiative we have going on, who's responsible for that, that can help guide you to where a question might come through. You'll notice on that page that we have actually hired an executive officer of public relations, and we'll be making an announcement on that within 2 weeks' time. Very excited about this new individual coming into this particular role. It's a new role for our organization. We did have a communications manager and a similar liaisoning role, but we've really expanded it through to an executive officer of public relations position to capture more than solely communications for the role. So we're very excited, and we'll share a little bit about that within the next couple of weeks' time. You'll also note therein the administrative assistants of all of my executive assistants through Shelley, of course, the administrative assistants for all of our supervisory officers and their portfolios, departments, and families of schools. So very, very briefly, we do organize the organization into 4 services: corporate services, employee services, program services, and special services. Within that, you'll note, of course, Jennifer for Corporate Services, Jacqueline for Employee Services, and the three superintendents of education, Ronald, Jenny, and Kristen, all have elements of program and/or special services, as well as family of schools. So we have three families of schools groupings, Arnprior and Renfrew that Kristen has, Opiongo and Pembroke that Jenny has, and then Petawawa, Deep River, and Madawaska that Ronald has as family of schools in addition to central portfolios. So that page really gives you an overview of our organization and the leadership group. The last piece that I'll just speak to is the Director of Education job description. You'll notice 11 areas of responsibility for me, and I rely on the talented members of the senior team to operationalize really what we do as an organization as effectively and efficiently as possible. It's of course always an area of growth and continued progress for me individually, but for our team as well. Just have a look at those areas of responsibility. There's an informal evaluation of myself every year, and every 5 years a formal evaluation, and one just took place this past school year, and I'll be happy to share that with the new members of the board. It was very, very valuable experience and great learning, both in areas of strength to celebrate, but areas of growth and next steps for me as director and secretary to the board. So I did want to share those pieces. A quick comment on Trustee Kaiser's commentary on acronyms. You'll find at the end of the fourth section, there are 3 pages of acronyms for you in case you come across one of those that may be helpful to you. I'm sad to say that that's not the full list of acronyms. That's an abbreviated list of all the acronyms you might come across, but it's a start for that piece. And my last commentary is we understand as staff that a lot of the information can be overwhelming. We'll take the next 4 to 6 months and just chunk out various topics or themes for segments of orientation along the way so that we don't overwhelm you with a 19-hour orientation on the first day. 18 and a half of those hours probably lost on you in that first day. We'll take some time to chunk out some of the key pieces, and we've already spoken as staff. My own team has suggested some areas for you. The Board of Trustees have, and we'll just, there's about 5 or 6 key areas. We'll just frame those out over the next 4 to 6 months so that we take these bit by bit and don't overwhelm you with too much in all of one go. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Buffone. And yes, it is a bit challenging to know how much to bring forward the first time around and what pieces can be left for later on. So hopefully we've chosen the right pieces for you to start with. The next policy, and it's really around communications that I know I found particularly helpful when we first started looking at this more closely. And I've asked Trustee Morris if he would just talk a bit about the staff and trustee interaction protocol. And it kind of gets to the core of, the governance versus operations. And of course, we do want to be part and parcel of what's going on in our schools, but we also need to understand our roles. So there is a piece in your binder about that we've actually just put together, I guess, probably in the last 4 or 5 years to confirm that. And I'll ask Trustee Morris to speak to it, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Humphreys. The staff and trustee interaction protocol, this came about a couple of years ago because we were just trying to make both the elected officials and the operational staff operate in fuller knowledge really of the other. And cooperatively. We don't live, in or operate in completely separate, spheres. There's the operational side. There's the governance side, the political side, and often there's sort of a middle ground where there's it's a gray zone where we interact, and we need to be cooperative, cooperatively. Working with the other part of the board as well. This was really aimed initially at the at enhancing the cooperation between trustees and schools. What's happening in schools, of course, is the business of the operational side. But you can well imagine that it's a political environment as well. If there's a problem, often the first person they'll phone is the local trustee. Well, the local trustee has no power to correct that. And the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, that the person will be told is, have you talked to the principal? Well, we need to make sure that both aspects of the operation of the board are operating in a coordinated fashion. There needs to be proper communication between both sides. You know, the schools, they're community schools. They really are. And trustees, in part, they have many different hats, but we're representatives of the people in our community. They have elected us, and we should be cognizant of what's happening in the school. And we established the staff trustee interaction protocol to enhance that cooperation, sense of cooperation, to enhance the interaction between the political and the operational. So, on this particular protocol, the purpose of this protocol was to provide guidelines regarding the working relationship between trustees and staff in relation to communication, attendance at functions, opening of new board facilities, and resolving parent community concerns. Very important things that certainly a trustee wants to, be part of public celebrations of the achievements of our students in school. So that's graduations, that's award assemblies. That can be just ordinary assemblies where students are performing. Um, the staff is encouraged to invite the local trustee to that. There's also every school is required in this province to have a school council, and that is made up of parents from the particular school, and they meet, once a month, once every other month type of thing, and just talk about. They listen to a report from the principal. They ask questions, and the protocol indicates that really trustees should be invited to this at least once. I try to make it as a personal goal of mine to make myself available for as many of these school council meetings as possible, because they really are one point of a very important contact between families and the individual trustee, and you get a flavor of the kinds of issues that parents have. The local trustee is to receive from the school, based on this protocol, a copy of the school newsletter and school calendars, which include special events. Otherwise, the trustee would not know what's going to be happening and wouldn't be there. It's also when the trustee goes to whether it's a school council meeting or an assembly or whatever, it's an opportunity for parents to ask questions of the trustee, and vice versa. So it's very important that the trustee actually be there. Also in the local school is to include the name and contact information for the local trustee in the school newsletter and on the main page of the school website. This is very important. We've only had this, as I mentioned, a couple of years, but before it was very difficult sometimes for individual parents to even know who the trustee was or how to get in contact with him or her. But this is a way of enhancing that cooperation, that communication. If there's any school incident or crisis, then the information is to be communicated to the superintendent, and the superintendent then would be, in serious instances, would let the trustee know that something has happened. The last thing in the world you want as a trustee is to be, have a parent ask you about something that's really important, and you stand there looking like a deer in the headlights. So communication is absolutely essential. Trustees, if you hear something really important that maybe the school should know about, something really good, some really excellent achievement of students, you can share those kinds of things with the school. They certainly love to hear those things. They know an awful lot, but not everything. Media. Media can be our friend, but to do so, we want to speak as one. Remember that trustees have no individual power. It's a corporate board. And so the spokesperson for that corporate board is the chair. So if you get a request for an interview, by some radio station or whatever, then just pass that along to the chair. You may be, chair may say, okay, fine, you can talk to this person, that's fine. But often it's far better to have a more of a centralized approach to that. What else? Attendance and functions. We want to make sure that trustees are part and parcel of any celebration of student achievement. So graduation, obviously, that is going to be a place where the trustee is front and center in the stage party. Opening of new district facilities. I think our chair mentioned we don't do too much of that these days. But we did have one when Valor was opened back in 2015, which is not very long ago. Or ribbon cutting ceremonies, whatever, that is the kind of thing the trustees should be there. I imagine there's going to be one happening very soon at Herman Street with the new daycare. Open house, information meetings, we should be there. And again, the school should let us know that these things are happening. As I mentioned, performances, special events, and the school council. School council is absolutely important, and I certainly would encourage the new trustees as well as the older trustees to make sure that they attend some of the school councils. The communications manager invites trustees to special events involving staff and community members. Makes trustees aware of new things that are happening in our schools, whether it's innovations, new directions, and programs. Trustees, we have responsibilities as well. Whenever we are invited to something, it's up to us to acknowledge those invitations and confirm whether we are going to be there or not. And when you arrive at one of those functions, please make whether it's the superintendent, if he or she happens to be there, or the principal, let the principal know that you are there. At all functions, the prominent political role is to be left to the trustee. Okay. And should be included in the delegation, invited to bring greetings from the board, and be part of the number of people who are presenting awards. I had one of these just not too long ago at Valor, and handing out honor roll certificates and medallions. Greetings of the board. This is not an election speech, so 2 to 3 minutes is just fine. And any opening address should be 5 minutes or less. And that's a long time. That really is. They outline here the sequence of speeches for important events at functions. The board chair and or the local trustee, then the director of education or his or her designate, the principal, and then any visiting dignitaries, whether it be municipal, provincial, federal politicians. Resolving parent community concerns. I already mentioned this, but if you have a parent or a community member raise a concern about a particular school, first thing you do is ask them, have you spoken with the principal? And if not, well, then you facilitate that. If so, if they have spoken with the principal and they're not getting anywhere or any kind of satisfaction, then you can bring that along to the the director of say, or perhaps the appropriate superintendent. See, that's basically it. There are a few other little details, but the important thing here is we've used this expression in the last couple of months. We've got to close the loop. You know, we have to make sure that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing and thinking, and vice versa. So schools, remember that there's a political aspect to your job, and your local trustee is your partner. The local trustee has the interests of the school, of the students, of the staff, at heart, and it's really important that you communicate with each other. And that, in a nutshell, is the staff and trustee interaction protocol.
Thank you, Trustee Morris. I'll just make one mention that it does refer to the communications manager in this particular
Yes.
item, and it really would be the executive officer of public relations. That's a new position, and so that will be changed in at some point in time. And I guess the other thing I would just emphasize, and I know Brian did too, is if you're not sure about something, just call one of us. Like, don't ever hesitate, to check in with any of us and say, should I be doing this or not? Right? That's anyway. We're here to support each other at all times. So thank you for that. And the other piece is that this staff trustee protocol is also shared with the staff. So it's not just us reading it. They have this as well, so that they understand what those connections should be. So hopefully that's been a bit helpful. Okay, I guess Director Buffone, you're on for just the next section, and we're kind of getting to the end of this kind of piece. I'm sure you're quite happy about that. It's been over an hour now that we've been spending talking at you, unfortunately, but hopefully it's been helpful. So, I'll turn it over to you for that next section, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Very, very quickly in section 3, again, appreciate everyone's patience and time. Are a series of just additional pieces of information, facts and figures. Our school year calendar, which is always helpful for you to have. And I'll just flow through them. If you have any questions, by all means, don't hesitate to ask. Our meeting dates and times for you. There are seldom changes to that, but every once in a while there's a change. But by and large, we set this in August so that the whole system has the dates and times of our meetings. The list of our schools and contact numbers, as well as the list of our principals, vice principals, both in schools and central system roles. You'll see the next sheet, again, just flowing through the binder fairly quickly, a colored sheet with all of our centrally assigned staff that work under this leadership of the senior team for you. And it's often helpful because they're very talented educators, as is the case in all of our schools, who do some of the central work, the system level work for you for the system. And then I'll just very quickly jump over. There's a couple of pieces that I know our chair will speak to very, very briefly. In the back pockets, you'll have 3 key documents. One is our strategic plan, which really is the guiding document for our strategic decision making, both, I would say, at a governance level and operationally. The second item is a foundational document called Inspired Learning. It sets the context for the work we do around learning and education in our system. Very important document. We'll come to that various times throughout our board meetings for you, along with our strategic plan. And the last item is just a piece of information for you, which is a long-term enrollment report. And what that is projections around the number of students in our schools, not only for the upcoming school year, but across about a 10-year span. So it's another just piece of information that we find is good context for your perusal at your convenience. And that's also something that we will come to at various times in the school year to frame, guide, and really focus our decision-making as an organization. So just wanted to share those with you from staff's perspective.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much, Zach. These pieces around the dates and the school principals and also the central positions is really very helpful when you're looking for something or someone. So it's nice to have that in one easy spot. So I'm sure you'll find that useful. I'll just touch briefly on the Ontario Public School Board Association. There is a little bit of a document there for you. Basically, it is an organization that represents 32 boards, I think, across the province. And basically, you're advocating for public education in Ontario. We have the ability to have one director sit on the board of directors. And so I know that will be one of the pieces that we will be looking to fill in this next little bit of time. And currently I'm the regional chair. So I'm representing 5 boards, but I'm at that table as well. But we are allowed to have an extra person. So I'm really happy about that. There is also some really good professional development that OPSPA provides in January. So, and all trustees are welcome to attend. It's the Public Education Symposium. And it is January the 26th to the 28th. And we would encourage each trustee, every trustee to attend if at all possible. It does start the 26th, which is a Thursday. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it does mean you pretty much have to go the day before if you live in Renfrew County. And it finishes at noon on Saturday. So it's the 26th to the 28th. Registration's not open quite yet. But it will be shortly. So something to think about if you can put it in your calendars, if you're able to attend at all, I really recommend it. Particularly on the Thursday, they usually have specific workshops and information geared to new trustees because there are a whole whack of new trustees across the province, right? I'm not sure what the numbers are, but there are a good number of new trustees provincially. Yes, David. Pardon me?
Where would that be?
It'd actually be in Toronto. It's at the Sheraton Centre in downtown Toronto. Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, so it is downtown. Anyway, something to think about. And as I say, the OPSPA is a great organization to be involved with. It's just such a great opportunity to meet with other trustees, find out what's happening in their boards. We do a lot of sharing of best practices. There are some really strong committees that work hard on program and policy there as well. They are also very involved in labor negotiations. They're the kind of the lead on behalf of the Crown for labor negotiations. So it's a very busy organization. And we're in the process right now of actually hiring a new executive director. So you can stay tuned for that. But I did want to mention Public Education Symposium. We call it PES, P-E-S. So if you hear us talking about PES, it's a Public Education Symposium at the end of January. So you can think about that, and we can talk more about that individually or as a group as well. I think that's pretty much it. Pino mentioned the strategic plan is there, the inspired learning documents there, the long-term enrollment. There is a little bit on governance matters in there that I know you can read at your leisure as well. And one of the things just to keep in mind, we will, particularly for the new trustees, we always kind of assign one of the experienced trustees to maybe work most closely with you. So you can, you can call any of us, but you may want to, we kind of like to set up individuals just so that they can connect a little more closely and you can make that connection. So I know for Trustee Primo, I think Trustee Morris is going to be your mentor. It seems to make sense. He knows the area of Deep River well. as well, and that makes good sense. I believe Trustee Kaiser has agreed to work with our other David. I think you have to be a David to be on this board, because one just went off and one's come back on. And Trustee Doherty, you and I will be connecting if that's okay. Again, it makes kind of sense geographically, and we can work closely on that. So that's helpful. Just to remind you about the next meeting. So our next meeting is December the 6th. It is a committees meeting. And we were anticipating possibly having a 2-hour session in the morning to do some more orientation. Is that a possibility for the three of you? And I know you have to kind of maybe look at your calendars, and we don't have to decide that today. We could do the 13th. We could do the 13th if that works better. So maybe what we'll do is we'll reach out to you following this meeting and just check and see which of those dates works best. We were just thinking maybe a 10 to 12 in the morning. We'd bring in lunch and then go to the meeting in the afternoon. So we'll reach out and see whether the 6th or the 13th works best for you. Yes, David.
Just ask about, it has the 29th of November.
Oh, sorry, that is our next board meeting. You're exactly right. Sorry, I skipped into December. My apologies. Yes. We do have a board meeting the 29th, and then I kind of skipped into December the 6th.
And the time changes to 2 o'clock, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, committee of the whole at 2. So yes, you're right. November the 29th, and then December the 6th. And if we needed to, we could go to the 13th. Okay, and we do have a whole bunch more things to talk to you about at our next orientation. I know that the staff have put together a list of things, and I know I've got a list of things too. So we'll continue at that point in time. Does anybody have any like burning questions at this point? I know there's a lot of stuff we threw at you, but you know we're really pretty open to anything. Yes.
This is the question about our family of schools. Like, is it permissible for us to visit the schools, or do we have to sort of wait till the principal invites us to visit? Or like right now, you know, with Admaston, it's a very small school. I'm not that familiar with it. Is it permissible for me just to drop in and introduce myself?
I would reach out to the principal and see what works for them. I think that's one of the pieces we try to be very alert to, is we know how busy all administration is. But please, yes, reach out to Tanya, I believe, Principal McNabb there, and see what would work, you know, that you could drop in, have a visit with her. The principals are always very open to that, but I would recommend you do that rather than just drop in, just because you never know what else is going on there. But please do that. Okay. Okay, there aren't any other questions. Let's carry on with our agenda. Believe it or not, we do have another agenda here. So we do have a few more elections to go through, and this is around the three major committees, and Trustee Kaiser certainly talked about the three major committees, which as I'm sure by now you realize that all of us are on all of those committees. We just have a chair that obviously leads the charge on this. So I will be looking for nominations for each of those committees at this point in time. So if we could start out with Finance and Resources, do I have a nomination for Chair of Finance and Resources? Yes.
I would like to nominate Trustee Morris as Chair of the Finance Committee.
Okay, and do we have a seconder for that at this point? Trustee Boland, thank you. Are there any other nominations for Chair of Finance and Resources? Any further nominations? Seeing none, could I have a motion to close nominations? Trustee Boland and a seconder, Trustee Dobson. Thank you. All in favor of closing nominations? Thank you. And Trustee Morris, are you willing to step in as Chair of Finance and Resources? You're on mute, but that's okay. I could read your lips.
I was on mute. Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you very much. Looks like you will be leading the charge on Finance and Resources for us for the next year. Thank you very much. And
I'll pick up a collection.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Let's do Equity and Inclusion next. Do I have a nomination for Chair of Equity and Inclusion? Trustee Boland?
I would like to nominate Dave Kaiser.
Okay, do I have a seconder for Trustee Kaiser's nomination? Trustee
I'll second
Dobson? Okay, that's good. We've got 2 there. We'll go with trustee Dawson. That's perfect. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none, could I have a motion to declare nominations closed? Trustee Boland, thank you. Trustee Doherty, I'm sure you're going to second that. I do. Thank you. All in favor of closing nominations? Thank you very much. And Trustee Kaiser, are you willing to step in as Equity and Inclusion Chair? Thank you very much. That's great. There's lots of work to do in that area, that's for sure. So thank you for that. Now for student and program and student achievement, we do have a nomination, I believe, pending for that as well. Do I have a nominator for Chair of Program and Student Achievement?
I would like to do that.
Go ahead, Trustee Morris.
Okay. I'm pleased to nominate Trustee Mike Gannett as Chair of Program and Student Achievement for the coming year. I've known Mike for almost 20 years. His long career in education was driven by an intense desire to help students succeed, to treat students as important individuals with complex needs and help them find a way to achieve success. His passion for helping students makes this position, Chair of Program and Student Achievement, a natural one for Mike. So again, I nominate Trustee Mike Gannett.
Thank you, Trustee Morris. Do I have a seconder for that? Trustee Boland, thank you. Are there any other nominations for Chair of Program and Student Services? Sorry, I'll get this right. Yeah, Program and Student Achievement. Are there any other nominations for Program and Student Achievement? Seeing none, could I have a motion to close nominations, please? Thank you, Trustee Doherty. And seconded by Trustee Morris. All in favor of closing nominations? Thank you. Now, I know that Trustee Gannett is not with us today.
I am able to call if you want confirmation.
Okay, perhaps we should just call him and just make sure he's okay with accepting this nomination, if that's all right. Just to be sure that that we're okay with that.
Hi, Mike, it's Pino here. I'm just going to put the chair on with you.
Thank you.
Hi, Trustee Gannett. I'm sorry you're not with us today, but I hear you're under the weather as well. We have a few others along with you too, unfortunately.
Well, whatever strain I've got is a bad one, that's for sure. It just crept up on me. I thought I was fine. I thought I'd get the meeting. And anyway, that aside,
Anyway, the reason we're calling is just to make sure that you accept the nomination to be Chair of Program and Student Achievement Committee.
correct.
Okay, that's perfect. It looks like you're the only one that's been nominated, so it looks like you'll be leading the charge again, Mike. I appreciate that very much.
I appreciate it. And has there been any movement on the chair,
On which?
vice chair?
Oh, yes, yes, we have, Trustee Boland has accepted and has been selected as the vice chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Okay. Could you, one other thing, I'm standing outside freezing right now.
Oh,
Could you take that piece of reception? That's why I took a minute to get the phone call. Could you ask either Shelley or Hannah to send me an update on when all the meetings are in case anything's changed? Because I've been away and I understand some of the meetings might have changed.
okay, the next meeting for our board is the 29th, so it's 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Okay, but yes, we can resend that to you for sure, Mike.
I appreciate that. And if that's it,
Yep, that's it. You go get warm and get feeling better.
I send my apologies and wish I was there.
Okay, thanks a lot. Take care, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Okay. He doesn't sound very healthy. It's too bad. Okay, so those are our major committees, and I know that one of the roles of that Trustee Morris had taken on was to reach out to all of our trustees to see where they might be interested in sitting on various committees. And not as chair, but as certainly parts of committees that we need to be part and parcel of. So Trustee Morris, could I ask you to bring forward what you have discovered and kind of where you see people fitting in with regards to these other committees?
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Humphreys. So we have quite a number of the smaller committees to allocate people to serve on them. There's a wide variety of committee assignments available, and for the most part, all the slots were filled voluntarily by trustees. And there are one or two spots left that I haven't been able to find anyone yet for, but I'm sure we could do that now, and if not, it'll happen later. I'll just go through these, and if we happen to have maybe 3 people for 2 positions, we can have like a mini election for that. But I think we should just go through all these committees and then have one motion to accept them all collectively, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Sounds excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one on my list is the Audit Committee, and the Chair of Finance and Resources, that's myself, is on that automatically as Chair of Finance and Resources, and there's room for 2 more. Now I have Trustee Boland in addition to myself, and there's room for 1 more, and I just wondered if maybe Trustee Primo might be interested. It really is fascinating. I know Trustee Kaiser says, or I think it was Dave, said that, the program committee is the most important, and it is. But in a different way, most important also is finance, because it's the underbelly, if you want, that allows all the good things that we do to actually happen. And the audit committee is essential. It's a provincially mandated committee where we have external auditors, investigate what we've been doing, just to make sure that everything is correct and above board in our finances. And we've been impeccable for years, so we take really good care of the public's money. So would Trustee Primo be interested? If not, that's fine, and we can certainly look for someone else. They meet about 3 or 4 times a year.
They advised me if I went to law school, I wouldn't have to do math, so I'm a little reluctant. But seeing as you're my mentor, Trustee Morris, I'll happily accept the position.
We appreciate that. Honestly, yeah, there is some math in there, but they speak English, the auditors, and it's a real eye opener. It really is. There are many levels to a large organization like our school board. So thank you so much for that. Then we have Trustees Boland and Primo and myself. That's 3, and that's what we need. Next is pick. There's 1 regular and 1 alternate, and I have Trustee Primo again. I think you indicated that one. And Trustee Kaiser's willing to serve as the alternate. So that's the 2 required there. Next is Special Education Advisory Committee, SEAC. 2 regular members and 2 alternates. Trustee Gannett indicated that he wanted to be on that committee, and I like being on that one as well. And for alternates, we have Trustee Kaiser and Trustee Doherty. Next, policy review. policy review, and I know Trustee Kaiser made mention of this, is an absolutely fascinating committee. And we have the chair is automatically on that, as well as the OPSPA rep. And so we have Trustee Humphreys. Now, Trustee Doherty mentioned that she would be willing to give OPSPA a try in one of the positions, which means that she would be on policy review as well. And Trustee Kaiser and myself would be on it as well. So that's Trustees Doherty, Humphreys, Kaiser, and myself. Indigenous education. 3 people have indicated willingness to serve on that. Trustees Boland, Dobson, and Doherty. The Student Senate. We have Trustees Dobson and Humphreys willing to serve on that one. The Calendar Committee, with 1 trustee on it, they meet once a year, is an orphan. We don't have anybody on that. It's a pretty quick, sort of painless assignment with somebody who's willing to meet or to serve on that committee. It's where our board and the separate board meet to coordinate, you know, the PA days and that kind of thing. Is there anybody interested in serving on the Calendar Committee?
Looks like to Trustee Kaiser.
I was on that a number of years ago. I'll, if nobody else is interested, I'll sit on that one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Trustee Kaiser. So that's Trustee Kaiser for the Calendar Committee. And just mark that one down. Good. OPSPA. Now, perhaps Chair Humphreys, could you explain a bit about the OPSPA requirements for trustees and your role with OPSPA?
Sure. Basically, we need a board of director individual and an alternate. The voting delegate and the alternate voting delegate can be the same as the director and the alternate director. My position is separate from that just because I happen to currently be the chair of the Eastern region. So it's kind of over and above. The board of director position, basically, again, we do meet in Toronto. You could come in virtually if you wanted to, but we do meet in Toronto probably 4 times a year. And it's Friday night and Saturday. It usually starts Friday evening and it ends by mid-afternoon on Saturday. So it's 1 overnight away at the Sheraton Center. So it's, as I say, it's a very interesting opportunity. I know Trustee Doherty, you indicated you might be interested in doing that. So that's excellent. I don't know if anybody would like to be an alternate, just in case she's not able to attend. If somebody would be an alternate for her, that would be a possibility as well. And the voting delegate and the alternate voting delegate, we would just assign. Kim obviously would be the voting delegate in my mind, and an alternate. We could, if there's an alternate director, then we could, that person could be the alternate voting director delegate as well. So I don't know if anybody would like to be the alternate.
So we have then the voting director, and we need an alternate, and your position is separate from
Yes.
from these requirements. So is there anybody willing to be the alternate?
It's probably not quite as critical this year because I will be there anyway. But if somebody is interested in it, there would be another alternative that if Kim wasn't able to go, they could attend.
I'm sure we could probably entertain somebody coming on a little bit later, give them a chance to think about this.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we have Trustee Doherty, and of course we have Trustee Humphreys as the chair of the Eastern region. Next is the Renfrew County Joint Transportation Committee. Oops, I got the letters transposed there. There we go. And we have two people on it. As the Chair of Finance, I'm on it. And Trustee Kaiser will be as well. And thank you very much, Dave. And the last one is the Discipline Committee. And that is the chair is automatically on that, and two others. We have Trustees Dobson and Primo. That may change up a little bit depending on where the student comes from, which high school, because you don't sit on the committee that's dealing with a student from your own school for something like this. And then there's one other committee, the Directors Review Committee. But we don't select people for that because it's already indicated as to who sits on it: the chair of the board, the vice chair of the board, past chair, and then the chair of program and student achievement. Of course, our director of education, Pino, is also on that as well. So everything worked out well in terms of spreading ourselves around, and I thank trustees for stepping up and making a selection on a number of committees. It's important that we try to balance the work of the board out. So thank you again.
Two trustee plus the.
And I'd like to move that we accept these committee assignments as indicated.
Trustee Morris, could I just ask one quick question? One thing that
Yes,
I did notice as well, and Superintendent Kuzna reminded me, with the
Sure.
Indigenous Education Advisory Committee, our
Yep.
Indigenous trustee, whom we're hoping we will have assigned to us sometime in the next little while, would automatically be on that committee, so that would only allow two trustees to be on the committee separately from the Indigenous trustee.
Very good. So we have three who have indicated maybe we need to ask one to step aside.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Dobson said he would step aside this time.
Oh, thank you very
So that
much.
would leave Trustee Boland and Trustee Doherty
Okay.
along with the Indigenous trustee.
All right. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I move acceptance of this slate of committees and the trustees who are willing to serve on them.
Thank you very much. So do we have a seconder for receiving this report? Trustee Boland? Are there any other questions? Could I just check with Shelley? Did you get everything you needed, Shelley? Okay, great. Thank you. If you don't, we can check it later anyway. All in favor of receiving this report? Excellent. Thank you very much. Looking forward to getting everybody indoctrinated into some of their new roles, and I appreciate the new trustees stepping up to things perhaps a bit unknown. But that will be most entertaining, and again, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, with questions on that. So thank you so much for being willing to step into those roles. Much appreciated. Okay, I think we're on to reports to the board for action. Director Buffone, I think these are probably your actions.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Wanted to follow up with the Board of Trustees on both the signing officer resolution and the borrowing officer resolution, and I'll read them for the benefit of the Board of Trustees so that you're aware of these resolutions. The first one on signing officer does provide an opportunity for those members of the board, as well as myself as director and the superintendent of corporate services, for signing authority on expenditures. So I'll read this resolution and then look to sign and look to have that approved. The first one: whereas the Renfrew County District School Board appoints signing officers each year, be it therefore resolved that the signing officers for 2023 be the chairperson of the board, Chair Humphreys, a Pembroke area trustee, Trustee Boland, and that's, I know it coincides with being vice chair this time, but with the 4 members, it's often a local member, so that any signing doesn't have other logistical issues, so it's often a Pembroke area trustee. Myself as Director of Education, and again, Superintendent of Business and Corporate Services, Jennifer Burns. I hereby certify that the foregoing is a true copy of a resolution of the Renfrew County District School Board, 1270 Pembroke Street West, Pembroke, Ontario, duly passed at the meeting of the board held on the 15th day of November 2022, and that the said resolution is in full force and effect, and if passed, I would date it to this date of November 15th, 2022.
So I need a motion and a seconder. Is that correct? Okay, could I have someone move that we accept this resolution? Trustee Kaiser, do we have a seconder? Trustee Dobson, thank you. And any questions or wonderings about this resolution? Pretty straightforward. All in favor of supporting this resolution? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And the second is the borrowing resolution, whereas the Renfrew County District School Board, 1270 Pembroke Street West, Pembroke, Ontario, deems it necessary to borrow funds not to exceed $12 million in any one time to meet, until revenues are collected, the current expenditures of the board for 2023, be it therefore resolved as follows. The signing officers are hereby authorized to borrow from the Bank of Montreal, Pembroke, Ontario, from time to time, a sum or sums not exceeding at any one time $12 million to meet, until revenues are collected, the current expenditures of the board for 2023. The signing officers are hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the board and to secure with the bank a line of credit for the sum or sums as borrowed, with interest at such rate as the bank from time to time may determine, or as governed by an interest calculation agreement with the bank. The treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to furnish to the said bank, as it may from time to time request, a statement showing the nature and amount of the estimated revenues of the current year, not yet collected, of the estimated revenues of the board as set forth in the estimates adopted for the next preceding year, and also showing the total of any amounts borrowed in the current year and in any preceding year that have not been repaid. Fourth, all sums borrowed from the said bank shall, with interest thereon, be a charge upon the whole or any parts of the revenues of the board for the current year and for any preceding years, as and when such revenues are received. And fifth, the treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to apply in payment of all sums borrowed from the said bank, with interest thereon, all of the money hereafter collected or received on account or realized in respect of revenues for the current year and for any preceding years. So that would be, I certify that the foregoing is a true copy of a resolution of the Renfrew County District School Board, 1270 Pembroke Street West, Pembroke, Ontario, duly passed at a meeting of the board held on the 15th day of November 2022, and that the said resolution is in full force and effect. And again, looking for support from the board of trustees. So that's a mouthful, but it is as written. And I know, Jen, you appreciate this more than anyone.
I can ask you to repeat it, but I don't think I will. Could I have a motion to support this resolution, please? Trustee Boland, thank you. And a seconder, Trustee Doherty. Any questions or concerns? Yes,
Just
Trustee.
a question, have we ever had to use this, like 12 million? I know it's a big sum.
It is a large sum, and it's very handy that we would be there if we were in a pinch with our cash flows. But fortunately, as you know, with the GSNs and the PPFs and the transfer agreements, the ministry keeps us in a good place. So we have not.
So it's just a backup kind of thing.
That's the backup.
That we've never really had to use. That's good.
Well, not since I've been around.
But not either.
Yeah, no.
Would be.
It would just cover us if there was ever a time where perhaps all of the check run was going out on the 30th and the transfer was coming in maybe the next month on the 1st. But no, I mean, we don't find ourselves in that situation.
Right.
Great.
Is it like a line of credit that we can use right away?
Yeah.
All right.
And it's up to 12 million. So
You know,
you don't have to take out the 12.
Yeah.
no, and again, it's
Certainly
really
not.
it's just there to allow for continuity of operations. It's not, we're not borrowing against it. It's just to cover in those instances that we haven't experienced, but it's nice to have.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of supporting this resolution? It's like we're in favor. Good. Thank you very much. And I support it as well. Good. And I guess you're on this as well as with your, oh, sorry. Number 14, I've actually been asked if we could push this to the next meeting. Trustee Gannett is not here. And Trustee Morris doesn't seem to be able to find the minutes of the last meeting at the moment. So, because could we just postpone this report to the next meeting? If anybody would have any concerns about that particularly? No worries around the table?
Sure.
Okay, so we will push that
We're good.
CAC report to the next.
They didn't have quorum,
They didn't have quorum.
so there was no.
Oh, so there was no minute. Okay, that's why we couldn't find the minutes.
That's right. I wasn't there, and Trustee Gannett, of course, was out of the country.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Appreciate that. So we don't need to push it to the
Nope.
next meeting because there was no meeting. Awesome, thank you. Well, it's too bad there wasn't quorum, but at least we now know why. Appreciate that. All right, number 15, I guess, Director Buffone, you're on with your director's annual report.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, wanted to first and foremost, as Shelley is just passing out the director's annual report, extend my thanks to three people and a fourth. I'll start with the fourth so that I don't forget. I do want to extend a thanks to Don White, who did a wonderful job preparing the binder for the new trustee orientation program. And it's there for you, members of the Board of Trustees, not only for this meeting, but over the next two meetings, so that if we give you some contextual information that may not normally come to meetings, you've got an opportunity to start. And we'll always send an electronic and a hard copy for you here when you arrive, but we'll always send it electronically in advance. So a huge thanks to Don White, who is the administrative assistant to Jen Barnes, for the preparation of the binder. Wanted also to extend my thanks to three people for the director's annual report. This is a report by legislation that I have the privilege of providing. Wanted to send a thanks to Hannah McMillan and Raymond Coleman of our communication staff for their wonderful efforts in preparing this document on my behalf. And to also Shelley McIntyre, as always, for her assistance in coordinating this. It's an honor and a privilege to provide the Board of Trustees with the Director's Annual Report for the 2021-2022 school year. Once again this year, the report provides an overview of the activities and events and projects that have taken place over the course of the past school year during the continuation of the extraordinary pandemic period, as well as the first year of the RCDSB's strategic plan for 2021 to 2025. The educational endeavors shared in the report include strengths to celebrate and areas for growth, as well as next steps for action in the early stages of our renewed strategic plan. And for those members of the board who are new, those are usually 3 to 5 year plans. They land somewhere around that mark in terms of a cycle. As a vibrant, learning-oriented organization focused on the achievement, equity, and well-being of our students, staff, and school communities, the endeavors described reflect the operationalization of the goal statements outlined in the strategic plan, action through the sensible stewardship of our resources, and a collective commitment to the measurement of our progress over time. The report provides an update on the key elements of our strategic pillars: inspire, community engagement and partnerships, including the exploration of an electronic platform as a parent-guardian portal for two-way communication between home and school, and the implementation of a 1-to-1 device-to-student ratio for all students grades 7 to 12, along with the continuation of a 3-to-1 device-to-student ratio for students in kindergarten to grade 6 for the integration of technology into our teaching and learning environments. In the area of empower, equity, and well-being, the completion of the final phases of the multi-year expansion of programs and services at the elementary level as part of the elementary school review, including the introduction of middle French immersion in the Deep River and Madawaska families of schools most recently, and the coordination of a tiered system of support for well-being delivered through the Lead with Care, Create a Responsive Environment approach. In the area of achieve excellence in teaching and learning, a continued focus on the framework for learning, inspired learning that you have with you in your binders as a cornerstone document that details the dynamic interplay between the core skills of literacy and numeracy, the global competencies of critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, collaboration, communication, character, and citizenship, as well as the big ideas of the curriculum. Those really are predominantly the overall expectations and some of the specific expectations that are central to those curriculum documents. And an array of professional learning opportunities in regards to the fluid, dynamic, bilingual teaching and learning environments for literacy, and the utilization of vertical whiteboards for instruction and purposeful practice for numeracy, as well as universal design for learning and differentiated instruction tied to our global competencies for all students. As always, the report demonstrates the care and commitment, ingenuity and innovation of the district as a large, complex institution of public education, especially in light of the challenges and obstacles of the ongoing pandemic. It reflects the passion and perseverance of all of our stakeholders, our students, our parents, guardians, staff, Federation Union partners, trustees, and community members. As has been mentioned previously, through its governance and fiduciary oversight, the Board of Trustees provides sensible, sound insights, as well as a steadfast focus on achievement, equity, and well-being across the system. The sage suggestions and pertinent perspectives of the Board of Trustees is so greatly appreciated by all of senior staff, and my gratitude to past Chair Morris and past Vice Chair Kaiser for that sage perspective and advice and suggestions that you've provided over this past school year. As key stakeholders, I invite you to read the report and reflect upon what continues to be achieved together at the RCDSB. For the benefit of the Board of Trustees, I'd just like to take you to a couple of areas to provide a little bit of context for you. One of the areas as you glide through, again, you've got Inspire, Empower, Achieve as our three key aspects of our strategic plan. All of the photos are authentic photos, again, thanks to Hannah and Ray of our teaching and learning environments. The story of our data, I'd just like to highlight a few important points for the Board of Trustees. One of which is it is clear to me as I look at our results over the past school year that we have been impacted as a district and a county by the pandemic period. And it's clear in our quantitative and qualitative feedback that that impact has been disproportionate, that those most vulnerable felt the greatest impact as would be expected from the pandemic period. And across the province of Ontario, as well as within a county, there is clearly an impact of the pandemic and the disruption of learning it caused on our achievement over time. And that's something that the senior team is looking at, a renewed commitment for us in two areas on that front. One is the explicit, effective instruction that we need to return to as we get to a more normalized return to schooling in person, with hopefully fewer disruptions, or the common word at the time used was pivots. The other is the importance of planned, purposeful practice. It's very clear that our quantitative numbers, the data in front of you, aligns with what we were hearing in our school visits. And for the Board of Trustees, I know the experienced trustees know this, the new trustees, I visit a school a week on balance. Every week I go to one school, and it is by far the greatest learning I get in this organization. It allows me to see, feel, hear, smell, and experience firsthand what takes place in our schools and our central departments. Our qualitative data, the feedback from our stakeholders matches the feedback quantitatively, that there are some concerns in what the disruption to learning has caused and the importance of a return to practice, even as simply as the regular reading that students did and taking books home that was disrupted when we were for long periods of time in the home context. That's not a discredit to what took place within the home environment from families. Everyone's doing their best, but there's been an impact. In the area of well-being, you'll see on the story of our data, the second part, the blue one, of course, are around achievement. In the area of well-being, you'll note a couple of areas. One, some things that couldn't be asked grayed out during the pandemic period, and they had, for instance, to do with positive behavior at school, because there was so much time that wasn't in school. It just wasn't a question that we could garner input from our students. And near the bottom, you'll see a couple of areas that were added, a couple of prompts around the impact of the pandemic on students. And so those two pieces, that the academic or the achievement and the wellness or the well-being pieces, again, mirror in quantitative measures what we heard qualitatively from our stakeholders, and leave us with areas for growth as we re-emerge, reset, renew, refresh from the pandemic experience. We hope for a more stable school year this year, but wanted to share with the Board of Trustees that senior staff realizes there's work ahead. There's always work ahead for us, but there's particularly work ahead because the pandemic has had a very differentiated and disproportionate effect on our learners, including some of our most vulnerable. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, a pleasure to present this, and thanks to the senior team for their dedication and diligence in all of the work that takes place that makes this annual report.
I know we just had a chance to take a look at it, but if anybody has any specific questions, and we certainly can come back to this and follow up with any more details or questions that you might have. Does anybody have anything that they particularly want to ask at this point? Okay.
Yes, I do. I don't believe I
Okay,
have a
yes.
copy. Thank you. I don't believe I have the copy of the director's report. If that could please be sent to me electronically.
Thanks, Trustee Primo. My apologies. We'll get that sent your way.
Thank you. I'll review it when it comes. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, I think with that, we will leave it. There's certainly lots to discuss and think about, particularly. Yes, sorry, go ahead, Shelley. I will have a motion. Yeah, I will do that. Anyway, we will certainly come back to this, but in the meantime, we do have to have a motion to receive this report because it has to go on to the ministry. So if I could have somebody who would make that motion, that Trustee Morris, and a seconder, Trustee Doherty. Any other questions or conversation at this point? I say I know we'll come back to it for sure. All those in favor of receiving this report? And that is passed. Thank you very much. Okay, we are getting very close to the end of our meeting. I know that Director Buffone has one other thing to comment on. But before we do that, I
Apologize, I have 5:30 doctor's.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Trustee Kaiser.
All the new trustees and.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Some of the new trustees and maybe some of our current trustees may not be aware that our director has been working very diligently on his doctorate over the last couple of years. And I understand that he recently received his doctorate, and we wanted to acknowledge that today because it's certainly very special. And I've asked Trustee Morris to say a few words because the work that Director Buffone did was kind of under his watch. And I wanted Trustee Morris to have an opportunity to say a couple of things.
On the agenda.
No, it was not.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Board of Trustees has great confidence in our Director Pino Buffone. He has vision and is very diligent in his work, in spite of laboring under extraordinary constraints. The past few years have been intense, as we all, especially our Director, work in the oppressive shadow of a global pandemic. He focused on the safety and mental well-being of all employees and students. He also focused on the academic growth of our students, ensuring that the work of the board continued in the face of COVID. We often marvel at how he was able to do all that, but there's more. There's an old saying, the best teacher is the one who also is a student. Pino was a practicing teacher, principal, superintendent, and then became our director. He has always been searching for new horizons. At a time when people could be excused for hunkering down, Pino embarked on a journey of self-improvement. He began working on his doctorate in education at Western University. What a killing pace he set himself. The result? Pino completed his doctorate in education last month. This is a most impressive achievement for the student in Pino. So, Dr. Pino, congratulations on your impressive achievement. We are so proud of you. At this point, I'd like to ask Chair Humphreys to make a little presentation on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Trustee Morris. And yes, we do have just a little something.
Really was on the agenda.
No, it was. Yeah, but we know, I mean, I can't imagine trying to do this in the last 2 years, which have been, we know what the last 2 years have been like. It's just been unbelievable. And yet you've been able to carry on and finish this. And we're very proud of what you've been able to do. So this is just a little gift to say thank you for all you do. And I think we also have cake afterwards as well. So, just so that you can enjoy that. But anyway, thank you. You're very welcome. Congratulations. I love it when we can surprise him with something. Yes, you really need to open this.
Standing here between everyone getting home.
Yes, I know.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's gorgeous. Thank you. Beautiful pencil. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
These were locally made. They're made of, they're a pen, a ballpoint pen and a fountain pen made with maple, locally made. So I know you'll enjoy those.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Board of Trustees.
Very welcome. Very welcome. So on to the last couple of things. Correspondence, we don't have any. You'll be glad to know. Other business, I know, Pino, you just wanted to say a brief word about some information that's gone out, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, just for the Board of Trustees information, we were able to send out to our school communities today, really in partnership, in conjunction with our Catholic Coterminous Board. I'm not quite sure what to call it, but it was just a reminder. I'll read it very quickly to you, very brief and succinct, thanks to Hannah's efforts. Dear parents and guardians, as respiratory viruses continue to circulate in our school communities, the Renfrew County and District Health Unit is reminding us to be vigilant when it comes to reducing the spread of illness and protecting those most vulnerable, including young children. And this includes, and it's based on an infographic from the RCDHU around wearing masks in public places, staying home if you're sick, washing your hands regularly, and getting COVID-19 and flu shots. Again, not mandatory, really just recommended. And so we've sent that to our school communities. We know there's various perspectives on it, but following the guidance of public health advice for our system, because we know there's been a number of children who've been in the hospitals of late. And so it's just a reminder on vigilance. And the second one, and I apologize, in our agenda prep, I neglected to mention this one. So there's an added item that we did.
Okay.
We'll prepare for the Board of Trustees so that you're aware, a spreadsheet for the meeting of November 29th, which lays out for the Board of Trustees which employee groups affiliate with which union and federation partners. There's a lot of confusion in the public because it's complicated. It's not that CUPE's the same in every district or any other group. We'll provide a spreadsheet for the region of Eastern Ontario so that you're able to see which employee groups fall with which federations and unions compared to, we're even vastly different from the Coterminous Catholic Board and from the other ones in the region. And the reason it's partly complicated for our parents and guardians is because our local newscasts pick up on various different school boards. And so there's a lot of confusion in the public as to which boards are open, which ones are closed, and why that's the case. That's a hard sell for the public to understand why our custodians would be in one group here, but in another group there. So we'll provide you with a spreadsheet. I'll be frank, I sometimes lose track of where the different groups are, so I can understand why the public does when I think of really the 9 to 14 boards in what's now the Eastern Ontario region for school districts. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully we won't need to worry too much about that, but but we do know that it can be quite confusing for parents and the community at large when they know that these things are going on. Just before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I do want to mention that There are jackets and sweaters and a bit of swag for all of the trustees again. And I know if there needs to be changes with sizes, we can certainly do that. It's not an issue. But we wanted to make sure that that you got something at least today. So I appreciate that. Okay. All right. I think with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Boland, Trustee Doherty. Looks like all in favor. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great, safe drive home. We do have cake, though. We do have cake. So, you know, you might have to have a cake. You have to have your dessert before you go.